Hi, this is Mike Doleplays at creativeobituaries.com. Today I'd like to talk about mixing humor into an obituary. Now, at first glance, that might not seem like something you want to do, but think about some of the more memorable obituaries that you've maybe seen in the newspaper or online. A lot of them probably have had a touch of humor in there, which has made what made them memorable for you. When I was working at a hospital marketing department, almost 30 years ago now, we came across a obituary in the paper one day that was so funny that we were just laughing out loud. And my friend Kathy, who was my coworker, said, "Boy, when I die, I want my obituary to be like that." Well, I went home that night and wrote one up and included all sorts of, inside jokes and poked at some of her ways that she can take something that should be simple and goof it up and make it a funny anecdote, and brought that to work the next day, and she and I just laughed like mad reading through it. Now, who knows how much of that will actually get used down the road, because we were only in our 30s at the time, but that was a good example of how when you work on an obit ahead of time, it's a lot easier to come up with funny anecdotes and things that made you remember the life spirit the person has and why the world was a better place with them in it. A good example of this was my own mother's obituary. My dad got me started working on it when we were about a week prior to her impending death. And in talking to my siblings, my brother told me a story that was very funny that I hadn't even heard before. So I said, "Boy, we got to include that in the obit." And we did. But the point I wanted to make is along with feeling free to think about funny things like that, because my mom was still alive, even though we knew the end was coming, it allowed everybody time to work through the revisions. We still went through 6 or 7 revisions, even though it was my own mother's obit, and you'd think I'd know her as well as anybody. And we were able to take the time to get it where everybody could sign off on it. Easier to do it then than under the pressure of having to do it immediately after somebody passes. So my suggestion to you is, when appropriate, humor is a great thing to add to an obituary. And like somebody told me at my mom's funeral, I loved being able to laugh through the tears when I read the obituary. Click the link below to get me started on working on maybe a little humorous obituary for you or your loved one, and we can get started on that when we're feeling free to think about that type of thing.